We are back with Carisa, and she's going to pick up the rest of the conversation. But before we start, Carisa, I had the funniest thing. Today, when you called, my phone rang. We are laughing at the cat who has decided to push the door open and stand there. So, my phone rang.
Okay.
And you know, your ringtone for me is the baby that giggles. And I think that's a good spot to pick up because even my son said, well, why is Auntie C's ringtone a laughing baby? And you and I know,
Yes.
but I think this is perfect to pick up
Where we
right
left
here.
off. Yes. That is a perfect ringtone because we do enjoy laughter. And anybody that knows me knows how much I absolutely love to laugh. And thank you for having me back again. Yeah, I do love to laugh. And I think, like I said in the last video that we had done, last time we had a conversation, is that it's one of the things that really got me through. It was very helpful. And I'm telling you, for anybody, that scripture in the Bible where laughter is good medicine, it is so true. It is the absolute best medicine that you can have, because on the days when the medicine that you may be prescribed or you may be taking or you may be taking on may not get you there, but the laughter will give you that boost that you need. It'll give you that reassurance, and it encourages my faith that it's going to be okay, because if I can laugh through it and try to find that in anything that happens, that silver lining or that funny lining, if it don't look so silver every day, you can find that it does help you. Yeah. Because on the days when it was much tougher, then I mentioned last time we were talking about the balance and inability to keep things going and keep things balanced and stay upright. Because the vision, you don't realize the impact that it has on your balance. And it was a lot of the other things other than what can come along with a craniotomy and the seizures after a tumor, and how all of that affects your heart rate and everything that happens. Yeah, those things, and thank the Lord they were dealt with before I got out of ICU and into a room, and especially before I got home. And so things were stabilized, or at least I had a path or a plan. Right. But it's the things that you don't consider, which is the fact that you got tumors growing and they just need to stop them. And so what's the go-to? If I had a course, they would say steroids. Everybody would sing at once. Yeah, so that's the go-to. And so what you don't consider, or at least I didn't, the impact that it has on you. And I remembered while I was in the hospital, once I got in a room, they would come and they would give me these shots, and I would be like, we need your insulin. And I was like, I've never had insulin, like what's going on? Right. But I was on such high doses of steroids that it was fluctuating your blood sugar. My blood sugar. Yeah. And I said to the lady, I said, well, why am I not on the diet, a different diet? And she said, well, quite honestly, it's nothing that we can do that's going to actually, the meds are doing it. So that's when I learned the term medically induced diabetes. Right. I was like, what in the world? But what I didn't realize is how it impacts your life so much. Right. Here I am working to see, okay, they cleared up, they got, almost all of the tumor. So let's see where we are, and, if I can see. And then it's like, maybe a day or two, I feel like I'm looking, I'm like, maybe it's a little bit clearer, I don't know. And so you're going through all that, and then after about a couple of weeks, you start saying, well, it's super blurry. Matter of fact, I ain't seeing very good out of the other one. So what I didn't realize is that the steroids were taking a whole nother path. And because the blood sugar was fluctuating so much, I was getting the shots, I was getting injected, and then I started on the pills, 120 milligrams of prednisone a day, until I could get to a point where they knew what this was, how we were going to treat it, and just the whole thing. And so many times people say, well, was it cancer? Was it this? Was it that? And I said, well, when you have a tumor in your brain, it is definitely classified. And what you're getting an infusion of treatments. Right. And the medications that you're getting are forms of chemo.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so when people would ask me that, I just started saying stage 0,
Right,
so that
right.
I wouldn't have to go into a tons of other questions. Because at some days, I felt like the tumor might have been doing okay, but everything else that all the medications were doing to me were altogether a different story.
Right. So when you were diagnosed with neurosarcoidosis,
yes,
gotta bring us back here. Could you even pronounce it? I mean, what did you think about? Like, what is this? What are y'all talking about?
That's exactly what I thought. What is this?
Right, I come in because I'm losing vision and I'm feeling a little off, and we take these tests. What was it, MRI or CAT?
Yeah, we did both of those. But MRI is what finally showed what it was and where it was.
And then it's like, what do you mean a tumor?
Yes, exactly. Because when I said, oh, I see a few meningiomas, a little something there, and then we went from that to full-blown tumor that has wrapped itself around your optic nerve. So for that, I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And keep in mind, I was getting these tumors in my mouth. So I had these growths on my tongue, and I had gone in and had a biopsy. And just a side note, I don't know if I've said this before in these videos, but if somebody offers you that,
say no.
Say no.
Run.
Yes, and if it is life and death, they tell you that. You make them prove it's life and death before you go do that. Oh my word, that was the most painful process. It was grueling. I mean, it was very difficult for me. And it was hard not to talk. And well, I had the pen and paper. And then, don't talk to everybody, but some people say I didn't stop talking.
Yes, she did not talk.
But that's painful. That was very painful.
Oh, I remember.
So I said the part about the biopsy because I had gotten that done a few weeks before we found out about the tumor.
Right.
But they didn't have the test results until I was in the hospital recovering from surgery. So this tumor had to go before we could find all of that out.
What was going on?
Yeah, because it was the growth rate that he had seen in the 6 months. He said you have to bridge your nose before you lose your vision completely, and we don't want that to happen.
No, thank God.
So that's why I went back to, I was having it done and having a biopsy done. And yeah, truly enough, it was worth it because I needed to know what was going all around my head and all.
Right.
But also, once they got the tumor out, they biopsied that and it all came back to the same thing. I didn't know much about sarcoidosis, period. Of course, I learned a lot.
Yeah,
and all of my digging and because everybody was curious, everybody wanted to know.
Yeah.
And the first thing they said was this drusen of the optic nerve. And I didn't know anything about that either. I was like, what in the world is that? And I had the absolute wrong doctor initially. I won't go to all the details of that, but I will say this. Do not be afraid to get a second opinion.
Absolutely.
Because while that diagnosis held true for me, it was worth my second opinion because in getting my second opinion, I had a doctor that cared enough, had enough grace and bedside manner, and what I say, enough of God's grace in him to go the extra mile to see why everything didn't flow the way it should have with just that diagnosis. So in essence, he actually led me to them finding the actual tumor and then going to have the MRI of the brain. And so always get that second opinion. And because even with that drusen diagnosis, it's so rare. It's like 25% of white Americans and really traces in African Americans. And I was like, well, I don't know together, which we know. But yeah, don't be looking at your ass the wall, right? But, we all know the truth.
Right.
So, yeah, as far as the origins go.
Right.
So it was there. And so in that, I still am tested for that. Mm-hmm. And it was just traumatic. And it's not to whine because God knows I am just so absolutely grateful. But until this happened, I'd always had the 20/20, and I hadn't even had my eyes dilated
You didn't
until
even
then.
need the readers.
No, I never even used
Sit
readers
at
or
the computer
anything.
all that time.
I know. Thank God's grace. All those years at the computer, and I was still seeing just fine. The only one, I like to say, the only one of mothers and daddy's kids who didn't have glasses.
There you go.
And including the grandkids, the daughters anyway,
There
had
you
glasses. So, in that, I was just like, it was a real traumatic experience.
Right.
With now I have to be tested so extensively with ultrasound and everything for my eyes, and I was like, you know what, what's going on? And that field vision test, which is what they do for the, and I know you remember because I talked to you one time, I was having one of these tests done, where they go in and you have to click this button for every time you see light, and they test one eye at a time. Can you imagine how traumatic it is to go from where the technician is saying, do you see the light? Or you're going tick, click, 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 to click.
Are you going to start it?
Click, because you don't see it. And
so
I had,
hard
those
days.
were very hard days.
Yeah.
And finally, I spoke up and I said to my doctor, I said, you know, this test, I said, I know right now we need to do it every 6 months because with drusen, it's a disease that, another progressive disease, just like the sarcoidosis, that there's no cure for it. It doesn't get any better. Mm-hmm. It only progresses in the negative. Mm-hmm. But the tests are what tells you how it's progressing because you won't see it.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So it was like, you know, we need to get a handle on this to see like where it is so then we can start gauging.
Right.
And finally I told him, I said, those tests traumatized me. They're just too much. And he agreed. He said, you know, I understand what you're saying. He said, you're not just dealing with the drusen of the optic nerve, which takes away your peripheral vision. You've lost straight line vision. So this is even harder, you know.
Right.
And I was so thankful that he understood how hard that test was on me, because it would just leave, I would leave in tears. It was just like terrible. And I said, I don't need a test to tell me how much I can't see.
Right.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, because even leading up to the appointment was stressful.
It was so stressful. And I didn't need that because I was already dealing with the diabetes and the medically induced diabetes for what it was putting on me. And because of the stress in my body with the extremes, like 4 something down to 60 something and all of that, my blood pressure was getting to be an issue. But it was all stress related, thank the Lord.
Definitely.
It was stress related. And it would be worse on days like that.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's always a lot of things. And when it's a lot of things coming at you, you do begin to say, you know, well, God, you know, I am trying my best to be faithful through this and walk through it in the manner that I know a Christian that has faith should. I know we've all heard those titles, but that's really how I felt. I'm like, I'm trying to be faithful through this, and I know that you're with me, but here I am dealing with something else. And if I had a stack of blocks, probably for everything that was added on with this, it probably would be pretty high.
Right, I believe that.
So it is. It can be a very traumatic and trying experience, but I thank God He always managed to show me a little light. Like when I learned about the sarcoidosis, and then, you know, people would say, well, I don't know nobody that ever had that but Bernie Mac. And then they would name some other people, but it would be these people that are no longer with us.
Right. That's not it. Please, ma'am. Hush. I encourage you.
That is not the example that I want shared with this. But even with that, you know, so I began to ask more questions and delve a little further into the internet. And everybody knows you believe everything you read over there, right? Yeah. So I tried to match that with medical journals and just things I could find online. And one of the things that was shared with me as I grew my specialist list, so I said I got another IST in my histology in my stack of names.
There you go.
So you know, it was reassuring that cases they had seen with neurosarcoidosis was not prone for having it spread through the organs,
Yeah,
like
right.
take over my lungs and
Right,
then begin to
right.
affect
So
with the
prognosis
fluid
is
beginning
better.
to affect my kidneys and all.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful for that. That I'm not. I wasn't seeing also that doom and gloom catch up with me to be
Right.
like more down and more pressing and certain things. So just grateful, to see the light at the end of the tunnel and it not be another train. So
Oh, see, that's
that was
good. What a wonderful way to wrap up this session is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. What an analogy, right?
Yeah.
Wow, God is good. I'm always just so in awe of, just you being upbeat and always remaining so present for your friends and your family and also for yourself. So our next session,
That's
we're going to
him.
talk about being
And
present
all of him.
and for yourself, and what are some things that you have done for you. Make yourself smile and be happy, because this child's always laughing.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. So if you have any comments, any questions, be sure to leave comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but stay tuned because her story is not yet over. Okay, be blessed.
Thank you.